Welcome to the weekly trading signals. I'd like to start the session by giving you some information about me. My name is Ihab Jubail. I was born and raised in Egypt. I have a passion for financial trading as well as teaching. I have been trading for a number of years, mainly on Forex and commodities, and in recent years I have also set up my own trading robot signals and website. I host online webinars and seminars on investment and financial trading regularly, and I provide my service to subscribers worldwide. Now let's start the session. There will be a number of tradable economic news that we will be looking at this week. Tomorrow morning at 5:30 a.m., Australian RBA interest rate. At 9:30 a.m., UK Services PMI. At 3 p.m., US ISM non-manufacturing PMI. On Friday, 8th of April at 1:30 p.m. London time, Canada employment change. Now with the first event, we will be looking at this week, Australian RBA interest rate decision that will be released on April 5th at 5:30 a.m. London time. Australia interest rate decision is likely to keep interest rate unchanged in Tuesday meeting, as recent news out of Australia have been positive. Also, the next possible rate decision is likely to be a cut. It's unlikely to take place in the next meeting tomorrow. It's forecasted at 2%. Previous release was the same 2%. How to trade this news? If RBA decides to cut interest rate by 25 basis points, we would make full option on the Australian dollar. With these numbers, if 2.25%, we will make price option, and if the actual release is 1.75%, we will make full option on the Australian dollar. So, if it decides to cut interest rate, we will make full option on the Australian dollar. And if RBA decides to keep hike rates back to 2.25%, we will make rise option on the Australian dollar. Because the market is expecting an unchanged verdict to keep the interest rate at 2%. Ultimately, we are a bit bearish on the Australian dollar because RBA has opened the door for rate cuts. And considering like recent drop in crude prices, RBA definitely have room for rate cuts. So, not like what you see, 2.25. We will consider making rise option 1.75%. We will consider making full option on the Australian dollar. Always try to find weaker currencies to make the currency pair with Australian dollar to make rise option, and the stronger currencies with Australian dollar to make fall option. Remember always to draw the support and resistance levels before the news being released. Like as you can see here with Australian dollar yen, H4 chart, we will see like where are the levels for resistance, and for support we will just draw them. If the market breaks through these levels, this means you have a better opportunity at winning the trade. So if the market breaks these levels before the news being released, or during or after, immediately after, so it means you have a better opportunity at winning the trade. But if we don't get the deviation number, expect the market to follow the pre-release market condition and sentiment. So if we can imagine that the market or the news will be released now with this chart, we can see like if it released at 1.75, most probably it will break this support line, and we will consider making full option. If it did not change and the actual release was at 2%, we will just follow the same direction also downwards, especially after breaking the line, support line, and with the bigger move with the break, the higher chance to end the trade with a higher success rate. For sure, if we get 2.25%, regardless the trend, we will consider making rise option. UK Services PMI that will be released on April 5th at 9:30 a.m. is the second news we will watch this week. UK Services Purchasing Manager Index will be a strong release out of UK. However, with pre-exit referendum looming in June 23rd, market is unlikely to push the pound up much, even if we were to get a strong figure. It's forecasted at 53.9. Previous release was at 52.7. How to trade this news? The Services PMI is tradable with a minimum deviation of 2.5 between the forecast and the actual release. If we get at least 56.4 or better, we could see some demand in the pound, and we will consider making rise option on the pound. And as always, we will look for weaker currencies at this moment. If we get a 51.4 or lower, the pound could weaken, and we should look to make a full option on the pound. We will be trading this release using after news retracement trade method. So we'll wait for the deviation, wait for the market to move with momentum first, and wait for a decent retracement before entering the market and buying the option or placing your trade. Remember to draw the support and resistance levels. It will help in making your decision to make a rise or fall option. If the market breaks through this level, this means you have a better opportunity at winning the trade. So rise option at 56.4 or higher, fall option at 51.4 or lower. If we don't get the deviation number, expect the market to follow the pre-release market trend. So if we get number between 51.4 and 56.4, expect the market to follow the pre-market trend. Like in this chart, if we imagine the news we released just now, we can see uptrend. So we'll consider making rise option on the pound. Don't forget that's euro pound, so higher release, it means the market should go down. And we will consider also breaking support and resistance levels. US ISM non-manufacturing PMI that will be released on April 5th at 3 p.m. will be the third news that we will consider watching this week. US ISM non-manufacturing PMI is a leading indicator, but because it's scheduled after this month's non-farm payroll report, I would be careful taking any long-term position based on this release. Instead, only focus on the immediate 2 to 4 hours after the release as expiry duration for your trade. It's forecasted at 54.1. Previous release was at 53.4. US ISM manufacturing PMI is better known as the US services PMI. The current expectation is above the 50 level at 54.1. This figure indicates an expansion in the services sector where 50 is the median point for the PMI. Will be using a deviation of around 2.5 points in order to trade this release. In the event that 56.6 is reached, we could see some US dollar strength and we should focus on trading against weaker currencies. We make rise option. If the opposite is true and a figure of 51.6 is released, expect to see weaker dollar and we should trade with stronger currencies as a below 50 entry shows contraction in the service sector. We will be looking for an after news retracement trade as usual for this release. Remember always to draw the support and resistance levels before the news release. If we don't get the deviation number, I expect the market to follow the pre-release market trend as usual. Canada employment change that will be released on April 8 at 1:30 p.m. London time. We will be getting the Canadian employment exchange release number on Friday, and since it is the main event for the Canadian dollar, we should see plenty of market reaction following this release, especially if we were to get our tradable deviation. It's forecasted at 10,000, previous release at minus 2,300. How to trade this news? the Canadian Employment Change report will be released at 1:30 p.m. What I am looking for is a minimum deviation of around 25,000. The deviation number is the difference between the forecast number, 10,000, versus the actual release number. So if we get a positive 35,000 of release, we should see the demand for the Canadian dollar rise. Therefore, we should make rise option on the Canadian dollar against weaker currencies at that time. However, if we get a negative deviation such as 15,000 or worse, we should see some weakness in the Canadian dollar, and that will be our chance to make full option on the Canadian dollar against stronger currencies at that time. I will also pay close attention to the unemployment rate, which is expected at 7.2%. As long as this number doesn't conflict with the employment change, we should follow the direction of the news release. If we get a conflict, such as better employment change but higher unemployment rate, then we will need to look at the context of the market before trading this news. So rise option at 35,000, full option at minus 15,000 or worse. Remember to draw the support and resistance levels before the news being released. And as usual, we will be looking for an after news retracement trade for this release. If we get number between minus 15,000 and 35,000 and plus, expect the market to follow the pre-release market trend. So 35,000 for rise option, the Canadian dollar full option at minus 15,000. In between numbers, follow the pre-release market trend. So then I'd like to thank you for attending today's webinar. We will hold the following webinar next Monday. Goodbye and see you next time.